And all right. Well, thanks for hopping on, Dr. Bill Steffen. Um, Dr. Bill, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I've had a varied career, I guess you could call it. Started out as most kids playing in high school, enjoyed it. Went to university, went to Furman University, played there. Then the University of Albany, finished up playing there. And then leagues went bankrupt all around me, and so there was no outlet. And then a couple of years later, they resurrected the ASL, the American Soccer League, and American Professional Soccer League, and ended up playing in that as a goalkeeper for 5 years. Left that. I'd done camps with Tony DeChico for. I got in with Tony just as I retired from playing, and worked with Tony for a long time. R.I.P. Tony. And then started coaching collegiately as I was beginning my doctoral work. I coached at the University of North Carolina with Anson Dorrance for a couple of years, won a couple of national championships there. Then went and I started the program at the University of Oregon. Had to leave there because I had to finish my doctoral work. Finished up my doctoral work and coached at UNC Greensboro while I was doing that. And then I'm kind of more full-time faculty now, but I still have to coach. I still have to show up and watch if for nothing else. It was at Ohio University. I directed the Master's in Coaching Education there. And then now I'm at Wingate University, just outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Done a bunch of coaching education with United Soccer Coaches. Did the residential courses for years and years, goalkeeping courses, and present quite often at the convention. So yeah, so in 30 seconds, that was it. I can't hear you.
And talk to me about your doctorate work. What did you get your doctorates in?
Yeah, my doctorate's in kinesiology, and I got it at UNC Greensboro, and they were very nice in terms of how they allowed me to structure my program. So my major emphasis was sport and exercise psychology, but then for my cognate, kind of like my minor, they just said, "Well, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, I want to know some of the sciences that coaches should know about." So I've got a pretty decent amount, 9 hours of graduate physiology. I got biomechanics, counseling, nutrition, and those are the kind of sciences that I felt coaches should know something about. So I wanted to know something about them, something a little bit more concrete than just, I tried this or so-and-so told me about that. I wanted to know the science behind it, as well as, obviously I'm in touch with a lot of coaches. I hear all the stories and all their experiences, but now I want to know, okay, well, that illustrates this science, or this science will drive that idea. And so I was able to do that. So my doctoral work was very good. I actually looked at, for my dissertation, my research involved do coaching education programs enhance coaching efficacy. In other words, they make coaches feel better about their knowledge and feel more solid in their coaching. And as a result of increased coaching efficacy, you see increased athlete satisfaction as well as athlete performance. So if I'm a coach, I want my athletes to be more satisfied and perform better. And so if I can increase my coaching efficacy, it's been shown that will do that.
And that's great. I think your involvement with coaching education and education all around, I think, shows the importance of why someone would want, like meat behind the theory, right? So it's not just exactly what you're saying, right? It's not just like, okay, well, this is how I do it, and right now you're finding out the why and the science behind it, what works, what doesn't, and stuff that's been tried and true. Right.
One of the big things that bugged me was, why do you coach the way you do? Well, because that's the way I was coached. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I want to be better. And so I think that by exposing coaches to science, it helps. I'm not saying that, okay, here's this study, you should do this. No, here's this study, you should think about this. And does this work for your players, for your team, for your kids? And if it does, how can you apply it to your kids? Because obviously they're doing it in a different setting than where coaches actually do their work. And so they have to think, okay, I see this idea, here's how I would use it. And I think when I talk with coaches, we generally get the conversation generally just that way. And I think that's very helpful, because then I'm now saying, okay, here's how you learn to coach. Here's how you can coach. And it expands their horizon, so to speak.
No, it's funny that you mentioned that, because, me growing up, as I was growing up, and my favorite part, and this is when I was younger, right? When I was in my 20s, my favorite part of of me being coach was the pizza parties, right? So imagine if I only coach because I like to give people, kids pizza parties. It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's fun. I mean, I'd be the greatest coach ever, but the kids wouldn't learn anything. So no, I think the fact that you help coaches gain an understanding of themselves and of the knowledge and the soccer piece, I mean, obviously, is fantastic. So how did you get involved with the United Soccer goalkeeping, and how does this tie in with your background in education?
Yeah, I think to be honest, it's kind of like the goalkeeper union. Kind of, all the goalkeepers coaches know of each other. Sometimes we interact a lot with people. That's how I got involved with Tony, just through a mutual friend who knew me and knew Tony. Said, "Okay, you guys should work together," and so we worked together. It was great, and that's not doesn't sound science behind it. That's just the way it happens. And so one day I got a phone call from Eric saying, "Hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to organize goalkeeping coaching so it's not so scattershot, but that there's a little bit more of an alliance. I'll use that word. There's a little bit more of an alliance among all these goalkeeper coaches." And so obviously I have a great interest in goalkeeping. And so, we discussed a couple of things about goalkeeping and talked and told stories and stuff. And then he kind of discussed the platform he was trying to arrange and trying to set up. And I said, "Oh yeah, well, if I can contribute, I'd like to do that." So to be honest, that's just how it all rolled together.
Yeah, and I think that's just how a lot of different coaches have come together. Either they call him, he calls them. Just you network, and
Yep.
as your network gets bigger and stronger, right? And I'm sure you've seen the group chat. There's a lot of things that come through as far as, hey, I need a goalkeeper. 2022, I need this. Hey, I have some openings here. There's a job opening there, and those networks and those group chats really enhance your environment and your experience as a coach, because now you have access to different things that maybe perhaps you didn't have access to.
Yeah,
So,
it works very well because it's kind of like a network thing, but it's also where coaches share ideas. I was doing this drill, man, and I was trying to get across this, and I had players here, here, and here, and it just didn't work. And, oh, well, wait a minute, I've done it, but I had a player here and here. Oh, wait, and you're sliding the glasses around on the lunch table and moving players around like that. And it's called unmediated learning circumstances, and it's just those kind of conversations. They're fun, and you also learn. You learn things about it. Here's why I did it this way, and here's why it worked, and here's where I struggled, and then somebody else tells me, "Oh, well, I did it the opposite, and here's what I got." And it's just good, fun, educational banter, I guess you'd call it.
yeah, and I remember we had this thread going about how this there was one particular player diving, and the way that player dove, and now like you had like five coaches chiming in, and then like 3 days later another coach chimed in, so it restarted again. So it was always great to do that part. But now, how useful do you find the information that's being delivered to the kids, and why we deliver it, right? Because I think that there's something to be said for some of the off the field stuff that we offer. So I'm just wondering, like, how do you feel about that knowledge that the kids can get watching the videos and going over some of the presentations that we've already had?
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're giving kids ideas, and in all honesty, the coach can present it and stuff like that, but it's up to the kid to really buy into it, to try it and see if it works for them. I think that, again, one of the things I've enjoyed working with goalkeepers is just giving ideas, seeing the kids try it, and when it works, their eyes light up because, oh yeah, I made that save. That was very demonstrable outcome. It's like I made the save, and when something that you can provide them or an idea you can suggest to them works, I think it's very rewarding, obviously to the goalkeeper, but also to the goalkeeper coach. And so when we do these things, that's the intent. We want to try and provide ideas and say, here's something that would work for you. Here's something that would work for me. Here's something, this. I was in Houston doing a camp, a Soccer Plus camp, and I was working with Peter Benetti, who R.I.P. Peter, he just passed away, but he's for years for Chelsea and he's for England, I think in Mexico, and a couple, 2 World Cups. And I'm running the camp, and Peter's there kind of as a guest, and he's, obviously very informative and a very sharp guy, really nice guy. And so we sent the kids away for water. We were dealing with crosses, and I said, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do, Peter. I'm going to bring them in. I'm going to talk. I'm going to be in a 3/4 stance. The ball will be out on my left, and I'm going to do this. And Peter goes, no, I don't do that. I'm going like, well, what? He goes, no. I face when the ball's coming. I don't care what's behind me. I'm just going to face the way the ball's there. Say, look, well, and we went on for probably like 5 minutes while the kids were all getting water. I'm saying, here's why I do this, and Peter's saying, here's why I do this. And we had this discussion, and it was nice. It was very, professional. We were, I got along with Peter great, so it was just a good back and forth. And I go, wait a minute, Peter, hold on. Bring all the kids in. And we had like 125 goalkeepers there. So I brought in all the kids and said, okay, here, I'm going to tell you what I do. Peter's going to tell you what he does. You guys are going to then go out and try things. You figure out which one works better for you. And I went into my spiel about, okay, I'm 3/4, and Peter went into his dialogue or monologue about he's going to be facing the goal, and then kids go. And some of the kids did one, some of the kids did the other, and they found from these different ideas that were both solid ideas, which one worked better for me, and then which one works better for you. And I think that's one of the nice things about this alliance is that it's not just one, goalkeeper coach saying, this is the way you do it. It's like, okay, here's a way to do it. Here's a way to do it. Here's a way to do it. Try this, try this, try this. Which is going to work better for you? I can suggest, okay, I think this is going to work better, and this is why. Try it. And I think seeing all these different ideas, I think kids appreciate that. And I think it also just gives them more options and more things to try in training to hit upon what really works best for them.
Yeah, and when coaches and when coaches also receive that information, I think that gives them, at least it gives me a little bit more of a mental flexibility to be more adaptable, right? So like, because a lot of times, like, listen, like I want you to receive the ball with your back foot like every single time. Well, this player may not be able to, like, for whatever reason, they may not be able to do that, right? So now I also need that ability to be flexible and be like, okay, wait a minute, this kid legitimately can't do that yet, but they can do this. And now that kid is open to now they're going to be open to more of my coaching. And now I'm also, again, maximizing that player's potential, right? Whatever skill you're teaching. So having that flexibility within the learning environment is super important.
I think giving the kid here's the information. Now you figure out how you're going to apply it. And I think that's a good thing for the kids, because obviously then the kids are involved in this process. They're not passive learners. They're actually more engaged because they have to figure out, okay, I have all these different ideas. Which one's going to work? Let me try this one. Let me think about this one. Let me do this one. And they are a part of the process rather than just being told, okay, stand here, do this, then move over here, stand there, do that. Yeah, we can tell them and suggest, here's why you should stand here. Here's why you should stand here. But it's ultimately by getting the kid more engaged, and then you'll find that they learn a little bit better, and their learning's a little bit deeper, of a better quality.
Oh, yeah, completely agree, especially when you can challenge them, open their mind up, and now they're like open to receive that information, and that they know that they're going to have somebody that can kind of work with them, right? Mm-hmm. And be able to exchange information and exchange ideas. I think that creates a better learning environment for everybody. Now, going to the month of September, you're going to be presenting on the psychological balance of goalkeeping or goalkeepers. So talk to us a little bit about what that means to you and why that's important. Like, why did you pick that topic and why that's important to you?
Yeah, obviously, I think the psychological impact and the psychological skills a goalkeeper needs, the mental skills a goalkeeper needs, are really important. I think that kids understand that, but I think they don't know necessarily how to train those skills. And I think, talking about experiences and things like that, as well as using those experiences to illustrate some other principles, I think helps kids understand, yeah, I can do that. I can be better at that. If we said, okay, here's how you're going to increase your vertical, do this. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I'm going to do this. I'm going to increase my vertical. Okay, here's how you can improve your mental strength. Here's how you can improve your mental toughness. So we're giving them some ideas about that. And I think that's that's beneficial for the kids. We're trying to train those skills just as you would train footworking, just as you would train, diving, high balls, things like that. And I think I think kids appreciate it, but they're not sure how to do it. And so hopefully, as I said, I can use a lot of experiences to kind of illustrate the mental skills and how they can be developed.
Well, and let me ask you this: do coaches know how to teach that? Right? Because a lot of because I mean that's a whole different. I mean, I know it's a different conversation, so that's fair. But a lot of times, us as coaches, I know when I was younger, and even now, right? There's certain things that I can teach and I know, but I don't know them to the umph degree. So, how important is it for us as coaches to learn that information as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important because again, if we just pick mental toughness, because that's a very desirable trait. You want to be mentally tough, okay? Most coaches will probably say, they can recognize it, and yeah, that kid's mentally tough, this, that, and the other thing. Well, okay, so how do you train that? And if we said, how do you train their vertical? Again, they would know how to do that. But how do you train that mental toughness? How do you develop mental toughness in your kids? And a lot of them will fall back on the drill sergeant thing. I'm gonna scream at them and make them work, and they will either collapse or they'll either get strengthened, and that'll work for some kids, but for the majority of kids that's probably not going to work. So what are some other ideas? Because again, if me being a drill sergeant is going to make you mentally tough, guess what? I'll be a drill sergeant. That's fine. But if it doesn't work for you, what's another way for you to do it? What's another way for you to develop the mental toughness in me? And then what does the research say? What does research say? This is how mentally tough people get to be mentally tough. And we can provide some ideas about that. I'll talk a little bit about mental toughness, but I'll talk a lot more, I think, about on preparation. How do you prepare mentally? For the physical part of a game, we know how to prepare for that. For the mental part of the game, how do we prepare for that? And how do those things aren't mutually exclusive. What physical activities can we do that will help develop certain mental skills that I will need for the upcoming series of matches, for the upcoming match, for the upcoming season? So things along those lines.
Now, do you think that the mental piece is ignored, like the mental preparation, the mindset and stuff like that? Do you think that's ignored versus being physically prepared?
I think sometimes some coaches will recognize that they don't have much experience with it. They don't have the background to really work with it. So they'll just, good luck with that. Hope it works out for you. Others will make an attempt, but again, it's a little bit scattershot. They kind of would have a better idea about, I keep talking about vertical. They have a better idea about how to train vertical than how to train mental toughness or how to train resiliency or how to train these other things. So I think, I'm hoping anyway, that I can give coaches some ideas about, okay, here's some things that you can work to help your athlete be resilient after a bad game, after a bad effort, after a bad attempt. Here's some things that you can deal with, or that you can suggest to your goalkeeper to help them deal with that kind of situation.
Yeah, and that's super important for coaches. Just, even for me, right? Because a lot of times, at least I get caught up in doing things for such a long time, and I do them this one way. That way becomes very redundant, very stagnant, and maybe it was applicable, or maybe it worked for my team 3-4 years ago. It's not going to work for this group. This new team may not, right? Or if I still have that same team, those tactics when they were 11 and 12 are not going to work when they're now 17, 18. So it's always super important to as coaches, educate ourselves and continue growing. But most importantly, for the players as well, to be able to see that information and receive it. So if they're not necessarily getting it all the time from their club coaches, to be able to at least get it some way or shape or form through the Goalkeeping Alliance. So no, your work is very much appreciated. Your time is appreciated. So if we had one or two things to look forward to with regards to your presentation specifically, what do you think those one or two things are? And by the way, like my mind has already been blown. I mean, like, I know I'm just saying it like, oh yeah, tell me more. But I'm like, it's the kind of selfish on my part, right? Because I'm like, all right, now I gotta listen to this, because now, like, yeah, I want those tools too. Like, so yeah. What other things do you think? One or two more things that you think we could talk about, that you'll be able to talk about with your presentation?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One are, I think just the idea of mental skills. I think people think, yeah, there's this mental side of the game, but it's over here, and we don't. But mental skills, because if we say it's a skill, then we think, oh, I can train skills. So mental skills. The other thing I think is kind of like the idea of a toolbox. You can coach. As you just mentioned, I can coach this way. That's great, because if some kids that's the best way, magic, you are golden for them. But if there's a kid over here, well, now I'm going to try and give you some different ideas so that maybe, you teach your strength. This is the way I would prefer to coach, because I just am very comfortable doing this. But if I have to, I can do this. If I have to, I can do that. So if I have a kid that in my standardized way of coaching doesn't impact as much, now I'm hopefully giving you some other ideas that will help you reach a kid that maybe isn't as receptive. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but just isn't on, kind of like on cross lines with you. But here's another way to maybe approach and help that kid establish and develop some of these mental skills.
Yeah, I totally agreed. And the kids that are going to be watching this are going to, two things, right? If you've already touched, if you're touching on something they've already learned, they're going to review it. And if you're touching on a new concept or a new idea, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Like, I didn't know I could do this, or I didn't know I could work on this part of my game in this way. So again, looking forward to the presentations. So I appreciate your time, Dr. Bill. And as always, thank you for coming on. And yeah, we'll look forward to the presentations in September.
Great. Thanks, Art. Enjoyed talking with you.
You too.